Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I hope you have some misery to share with me. I'm very good at overcoming misery. Except my wife, of course.
Oh, I'm going to get first in line, so move out of my way.
But I like to start the program with a little criticism to my audience.
You're right.
I beg your pardon? Okay.
I didn't hear you.
You see people, I don't know what they call them, but they're very brash in their speak, and they pretend to be representing God, and they babble and they babble and they babble with long, powerful voices, and the whole room is full, 10,000 people. And they get caught up in that. I don't know what they call that person. There's a name for it.
I can't think of it.
Yeah, I can't think of it either. So,
Evangelist?
huh?
Evangelist?
Evangeline. Yeah, something like that. But the point is, they get so carried away and they so enjoy feeling that they're good and they've appreciated the antics on the stage of that person. He wakes them up and makes them excited and feeling like they've got something. It's like an entertainment. And they go home and tell their friends and they bring more. But here, that doesn't happen. Now, when I get on an airplane or travel, I sit next to the person and I say, hello, where are you off to? Oh, he tells me where it is. And he says, where are you going? And I tell him where it is. Oh, my name is Roy. And so what do you do? And he says what he does. I said, it's very interesting. He says, what do you do? There it is. I help to overcome pressure, overcome post-traumatic stress disorder, things like that. And then we have a conversation, and 3 hours on the airplane seems like 3 minutes. And before you get it, he wants to have where he can hear me. But of course, you can't build a lot of people that way. But what I'm making is that you don't bring anybody in. You lack something. Now, you don't have to say Roy Masters, because Roy Masters is a pervert in this county. But you can say, have a personality. I have a personality that softens a relationship and brings it on. There's something missing in you that you can't share it. If I can help you and you can grasp that and become whole or becoming whole, there's got to be some kind of extension of that. There has to be, because you're useless. If you just get better and shut up and then just sit there and enjoy your life by yourself, you've got to share. I love sharing. It's multiplying. It's doing something. I'm building something. What are you building? With respect, I help you, you get better, and you sit quietly and say nothing. But you have to approach it in a light-hearted way. You get into a conversation, and you get into, I see you've been to the hospital lately. Oh, yeah. It starts. When I come into a room, I come into the room and everybody will know I'm there. But not because I'm noisy or that kind of thing. I have an energy field. And the energy field is the extension of my work. And it should go from one to another. And I know it does out there somewhere, because I have a big audience and they do talk to each other. They talk about that. And one of these days I hope to, get to as many radio stations as possible and spread the word all into the world. And I've already starting to ask them to call friends in different countries and get them to listen to Roy on the radio, which is that you can just come to my website and there you are. And so you need to extend yourself. It's necessary. Otherwise, you're going to die. You just can't keep this to yourself. You have to radiate. Because most of you are death warmed up. Excuse me saying that. What use are you? What is love? Is to share. What have you learned? It doesn't matter how much money you got, that's not important. Because nearly everybody has some sickness. There's hardly a person that doesn't have any sickness. As you bring it up, somehow, like sitting on the airplane. Oh, what? Where are you going? Yes. And what do you do for a living? Oh, that's very interesting. What do you do for a living? And there it is. He said, oh, you do that? You help people to overcome stress? Do you have stress? Oh, yeah, I've got lots of stress. Who hasn't? Anyway. All right. Who has a question? Patty, naughty, sit in the front row. I'm going to get you. Come on. Oh, come on.
I'm very comfortable here.
I can't hear you.
She says she's very comfortable.
All right. My brother, there's a little story here, and we'll get something started. My brother was jealous. I never knew he was jealous. My father died at 42, and I was, I guess, 12. And I became the man of the house, and Mother appreciated that she could talk to a 12-year-old boy. And he became jealous. Now, I never knew he became jealous. I never noticed it. But to cut a long story short, after I'd been in the military, I took him to South Africa and gave him food, paid for his dues for Witwatersrand University, for his education. But deep down inside, he was very jealous. I did not know he was jealous. I just did what I wanted to do, took care of him, and brought him back to England and brought him to America. And he became a person who builds houses. What do you call it?
Architect.
Yeah. And he would, later on, he started to talk to my wife about his jealousy. But he didn't call it jealousy. He says how rotten I am, how cruel I am. And my wife began to resent him. She couldn't understand it. She got angrier. And she never spoke to me about it. It was going on behind my back. And all of a sudden, she changes. Because she resents the person who was, what word did I use? Jealous. Jealous is a very wicked thing. But the more he spoke that way, the more she resented him. And the more she resented him, the more of him came into her. And for 20, 30 years, I didn't know it, that she kept it to herself. She became the thing she hated. And it demoralized her. It's because it became a war between me and her. But she couldn't stop it. She couldn't see it. But she became exactly the same. And just last night, she began to see that her resentment towards me was jealousy. You were jealous. And she admitted
Are
it.
we gonna, oh, well, I better come sit next to you.
No, that's very good. But they're very good how you got it. It's not an effect
Yeah.
that you're a bad person, but you hated the
brother.
person that judged me.
I know, I did.
See?
He was a
And when you
rat.
did that, when you started to get angry, you took the nature of the person, and it's been working on you for years. And I just got to understand it in the last couple of days.
Oh, how wonderful.
See, you're beginning to see it.
Yeah, I see it.
But you see how it multiplies.
Sure does.
You've got to be careful. I love to talk about this because it is everybody's misery. And everybody's misery is this. You start to come into the world, you know how to talk that way, open it up. But to be not political, but biblical, I like the concept of how the universe and people existed and how it multiplies. The misery multiplies and beauty multiplies much less because there's hardly anybody that really understands, what it means to be a human being. Nearly everybody on earth have the same frustrations and hates, but what that does, when you come into the world, it begins, and in this case, it's the other way around, whereby Adam lost his relationship with God permanently. There was no way back. And Eve had infinite power. Infinite. Adam had one, God. What Eve had is an immense amount of ways of hurting, because he he lost his ability to say, put the fruit down. So he became the subject of the woman, not the woman the subject of the man, and the man the subject of God, and that's how it would have been. But there's a reason why God made it that way. It has to do with multiplication. In the garden, I don't know why I'm going to this way, but in the garden, they were naked and they weren't ashamed. What does that mean? There's no sex. There's no reproduction. They're not ashamed. They don't know they don't understand what we're talking about. But when he got thrown out of the garden with the wife, with the woman, he became part man, part woman and part animal. And that's the origin of emotion. The origin of emotion is he became, how I call it, a part animal, a human animal, with anxiety. all anxiety. But it awakened his sensuousness because they saw that they had changed, and they put on leaves to cover themselves. They were embarrassed. And then began the beginning of the whole human race, in my opinion. It's 10,000, God knows how many years ago. I don't think it gives the amount of years. But it's such an interesting thing that now they begin to reproduce. And I just want to stop there for a minute because it's not only amazing that God made a man, and then out of the man the woman came. And there's a divine order. And then it got reversed. But not reversed in the Garden of Eden, but reversed outside. And so they became an animal, and a reproductive animal. And the way the human beings created after that wasn't the same way. In other words, man born of woman looks to woman for love, not God. And misery starts right away. Absolutely. Exactly. Everything that we do here, everybody on earth has problems with women.
Amen to that, brother.
That's right. And it's not the fault of the woman, but she's Eve. And but the hunger of man was sex, reproduction. But I want to stop there because I don't know how to explain this. It's been on my conscience for a long time. How does that part of bringing forth a child, I forgot the names of the parts. You got it? A little something.
Oh, sperm?
Yeah.
Sperm.
And it was ovum.
Yeah.
Now, here is to me, such magic. And the magic is of all the animals. It's all the animals are like that. But since I'm a human being and a person that searches and wonders, I want to know, how does it take a tiny little whatever connecting to each other and to bring out a whole human being? I don't care about the animals right now because we're not really animals. We are partly animals because we're the extension of them. But in my longing and in my wondering about things, I saw that little microscopic thing turns into a human being. Now we are all aware of this, and we take it for granted, correct? I can't do that. How can something almost invisible, you need a microscope to see it, where is all that, what's the magic of that? And it comes out ripe. Right. It's all the same. And now there's 10 billion people on the earth, all scattered everywhere and adjusted to their surroundings.
Comfortable.
Yeah. But the thing is, the wonder of it all, it's magic. But all we think of is, oh, she's having a baby. Something's missing. snails, dogs, cats, they'll have the same thing. But we human beings are not that. There's something more to us, to be aware of ourselves. I'm not sure that we are appreciative of the fact that my hands, I can do things with it. In my speech, I can make myself known. There's so much. And this creature can build buildings and invent this, invent that. And so, I don't even know why I have, but to me, this is magic. The universe has to be magic. I like to do magic. I have a lot of fun with it. When the air raid sirens on, I was only in the military for 2 years. So when the air raid sirens go on, I was reading books but I got bored with that, and I started doing magic. I don't know why I just started magic, and I became very good at it. But there's something about magic that is awe. How does he do that? How does he do that? I'm saying to God, how does he do this? Where did he come from? Was he always there? How can I understand? Yes, he had to be always there. How could always be always? It's not comprehensible. And he made himself he made an image of himself, and then with Adam and Eve. But the interesting thing is, you can't see him. You have to. Yes.
Yeah, I think what's interesting to me is
Can
really
you stand up
interesting.
so I can hear you better?
You want me to? Yeah,
If you wouldn't mind, thank you.
No, I don't. I think because man can't. It's the concept of God is so. You can't. It's just too much. I mean, an endless universe. I mean, people rarely think about that, but it's endless. And
I don't think people think much about it.
Well, no, they don't, because they're only thinking about the everyday things. They don't have time to lay back and say, "Gee, man, the crickets." They lose it because they had it when they were a kid.
Yes, but you're not adding to it.
Okay,
actually.
all
I
right.
appreciate it.
But I don't think. Well, man, unless he gets realizes his greater self.
I'm trying to make a point.
Well, when you say the
I'm
sperm,
trying to make a point.
the sperm and the egg, when they come together, it's like the singularity.
Well, I don't know if that is adding to my program tonight. I have wonder that something can exist that has to be magic. I do not have a word for it. But God, there has to be, if there's going to be a creation, there has to be a creator. If you have to have a picture painted, you have to have a person who is experienced in making paintings. The painting doesn't paint itself. But this God it touches me. And I wonder it doesn't touch other people to think of, I have hands, I can speak, I can walk, I can realize. But it came out of two little things under a microscope. And that is miracle. But it's also a miracle for a snail. But the snail can't say this to himself. He's not aware. But I'm aware. And there's got to be, the whole problem I'm trying to explain is, how does he exist and always exist? And not only existing, but building, never stops building. The universe never stops growing. It is something you need to add to what you think of as religion. Because it's magic. And Jesus was magic. He makes the point. He turns wine into water. I mean, that's what I do. I made a mistake. I got it backwards. Water into wine, I beg your pardon. But the point is, he actually cures people just by being there. And I do it to some degree. But if you can just take that for a moment and look at your hands and see, you can do something with them. And they respond. How does it respond? How does it want to write? How much and what will it write? Where would it get the knowledge to write? Because everybody writes trying to say something new. So I don't know if I've stirred you up much, but you really need to appreciate
Can
that
I
beauty, because it's, yes.
can I add something to that, because it triggers something in me, which is what you're saying is you are overwhelmed by the wonder of it all,
I am.
and and how it is everywhere you look. You see his magic working in the good and the evil.
Everywhere.
Here's what I find. I'm seeing the same thing as my life grows,
Yes.
but I realize that if I don't want to see something about myself, if I don't want to see, I want to hide something from my consciousness,
Yes.
that then I cannot wonder at life. I lose a little bit of that wondering
yes.
because I don't want
Well
to
said.
see what my consciousness shows me, because he not only shows me the magnificence, but he also shows me my failings.
Correct.
And if we can let that, every time you deny something that's inside yourself, you are losing that wonder, a little bit of the wonder. And the
Aren't we
wonder,
born to wonder?
the wonder is the marvelousness of life. And
Is it not? Do
you welcome an
understand that?
unknown future because you're always wondering.
Yes, you see, but most of the people are not wondering. They're just looking for pleasure.
Or they're looking some way to escape the consciousness through judgment and emotion.
Yeah, they want to be their own gods.
Yes. And he can't work in you when you're taking his place. He will work around you, push you towards this realization. But you're thwarting the almighty, the powerful spirit of the
He makes a
Father.
very good point. And so if you can just somehow disconnect from all the thoughts in your head and all the judgments you have. And judgments really are playing God. And forgiveness is playing God. If you could bring a child up and talk to him the way I'm talking to you, the child in you, you will want to know more about that. Wouldn't it be? And that's intuition. That is looking to find the meaning of life. We have what animals don't have. We came from God in his image, but spoiled, half animal, half human, in conflict with that relationship. What we need to do to make it the most important thing in your life is to enjoy a butterfly. It's just a blade of grass, and wonder. But you see, what was lost in Adam what was lost in him was him who created him. And he became subject to the woman. And then the human race began to unfold. And in that unfolding, he is reproducing other human beings exactly the way a dog does it. And most men are dogs anyway, if you don't mind me to put it that way, with as far as women are concerned. But what we've got is a different way of creating human beings. God has a skill. He has an understanding, which I'm beginning to understand. In other words, God knew that if he gave him a choice, he would do the opposite. He would rebel. And so he says, in this garden, there's all kinds of trees. You can eat the fruit of every one of them, even the one of eternal life, but not that one. And he picks not that one. And a change took place. All magical. So now he's outside the garden, and he has to adapt. And he adapted the animal aspect while being human, so it can question. And so therefore, the woman gave birth. He became an animal. He must have been frightened, because all of a sudden, I have to say this is a little bit awkward, but when he came out of the garden, he saw himself, and it disturbed him. He burned like an animal. And he reproduced like an animal. But he was still human. And so we come into this world, and the world we come into is Eve, is the extension of Eve. It isn't over yet. It's just the beginning of it becoming over. And so, and he makes the point, because you've done this thing, you become bonded to the woman as one flesh. So he's not all man yet. He has a little bit of woman in him. And that little bit of woman goes back to the woman for pleasure and reproduction. But he's not interested in reproduction. He's only interested in relieving his, if you know what I mean. See? But it becomes a pleasure, because he has guilt. And the way you get guilt is to use anything. In the beginning, he'd be using the woman for pleasure. And more. And the more he wanted, the more the more he wants. It's like an addiction. It's an addiction. But the point is, neither one of them know how to bring up a child. Eve is still Eve, and Adam is a failing person. And so every family is broken. I just have jumped forward a little bit. He says, think not I've come to bring peace, but the sword. What is he talking about? Because virtue does not live in the blood. In other words, virtue is something that you choose. So a family will have maybe one person who is thinking about the way I think. What is the meaning of life? why is my father drunk? Why does my father and mother love the children that are not good, that are rude and crude? Why are they picking on me? I don't mean any harm. There's you've got two choices when you're coming into this world. But the choice is that you're going to come from an animal into a real human being again. It's redemptive. The way it's working is redemption. When Adam and Eve, it was going the other way down and everything stops. But they turned into animals in conflict. So every man who comes into the world is the extension of Eve with a failing man. And I could bet your bippies that nearly everybody in the world has the same misery, suffering, and the way they live with each other. The woman is always trying to overcome the man. You see? And so on and so forth. So there's always misery in the home. Think not I have come to give peace, but war, the sword. And so every family has the opportunity of one or the other. And God doesn't decide what a person has to decide. And so with every family you have misery. Every family, even if it's covered up, if you're rich and you're covered up, you have nice things and you look like you're a nice person, you've still got those problems. Nobody survives it. But you can survive it in a sense by asking what the meaning of life is. That is a choice. And though you came into the world and you're broken, and you're taking on the identity of your mother, and there's a woman, you're standing in your parents' shoes, your mother's shoes, and it never stops. It never stops. And everywhere you go, it's the same thing. They ruin their children. But some children are different. And they're different because whatever it is, he wants to know, what's the meaning of life? But the others don't care. They want to be like Adam. You can eat off all the fruit of the trees, but he will eat the wrong one. He's rebellious. He wants to have power. See? He's still like an animal, but he's part human animal. And that's very dangerous for the half-human animals because he's got all kinds of cleverness in him to do harm and to get others to do unto him what was done to them. What was done to him, he does to them. But you see, what I'm trying to say to you is you came from a bad home. Nearly everybody comes from a bad home, rare. You can just say it's all the same. Man is burning, and she takes care of the burning, and then she gives as much as she has to keep him happy, and it only gets worse. And the more the man wants, the more she has to draw up from the dark side of the force and feed it to him. And he feels good, but he's worse. And the more he wants, the worse he becomes. The worse he becomes, the more he wants. And it's all he wants is a feeling of worth, a feeling of power. But it's all backwards. It doesn't work. But there's just a few little children that come into the world and they survive. And they know that the concept of the meaning of life is strong in them, as it has been with me and most of you here. Correct? And there's a reason for it, because if God made Adam and Eve and they they finished. They die. But he doesn't make them die. He makes them live like animals to reproduce. And this reproducer is a human in conflict with his animal nature. And there's always conflict there, always. But there's two ways of overcoming it. One is to search, to take the pain he feels from what was inheriting it when he came into the world. When he came into the world, he was pure. A baby is pure. A baby has intuition. But what's wrong is the mother. What's wrong is the father. 99%, I can guess. But there's a beauty in it. He now has a choice to go back to what Adam did and enjoy his life as an animal and putting people on pedestals or becoming a pedestal, but driven to overcome the idea that there's something bigger than himself. Pride. And the other child has a different, but we don't know why that happens, but it is choice. And so the child that's born that way with the choice and is inclined to use the choice moves towards redemption. God wants redemption. He's not going to make up Adam and Eve and do it over and over and over again, knowing it would always go nowhere. So he has, every child that comes in the world is innocent. But innocence is overcome by mother from the failing father. She does not know what love is. And the man does not know what love is. So they keep reproducing or fighting each other and fighting each other. And the child sees the war going on, injustice. And the child can see injustice. Even if he's 2 years old, he sees it. And especially if the brothers and sisters are opposite to him, the little child is threatened by the rotten ones, who may later on take a different turn. But at that moment, the little child that comes in the world is poisoned to some degree, because he can't help but hate what he sees. But he's still bright. And he has some conflict, because when he comes into the world, the mother's has affected him. The very fact that he's born to a mother is the extension of the mother. So much so that there's a part of man that is also female, because it says clearly, because you've done this thing, you become entwined with the woman and become one flesh. You've got to get rid of the woman flesh, the woman attitude, the addiction to look to the woman for approval. It makes her God, a kind of God, and supports the animal. And yes, there's pleasure, and there's what we call love, but love is not love, it's lust. It's always lust. There's a time to be finished with this. But you see, what we got now is two kinds of human beings coming into the world. The one that choose to die, to give it up, to go to church, or to degrade other people, and doing unto others what was done to him. And it goes on, and he gets worse. But the thing is, and what you need to know, a system is there where a bully is more powerful than you are. And that if you're born into a family and you get teased, you start to become like take the identity of the person. As I explained, when my wife resented my brother, she took the identity of him, and she started to do this over the years, and I don't react. So the more she tried to get upset, the more she upset me, because she became what she became. She resented him, and that resentment, if she reacts to it, she becomes that person, and it goes on. And if it goes on, if it goes on this way, on to somebody else, pretty soon you have a whole country, a whole world filled with people who are looking for meaning, and those who do destroy those who want meaning. Because meaning would mean they would be eliminated, overcome. It's war. And that's where all the wars come. And if you appease this person, you embolden them and make them more powerful. And so, I'm not knowing where I'm going there, to exactly where I'm just speaking as I...
Music to our ears.
You like what I'm saying here?
Yes.
So, I want to take this a little further, because I don't think I've made it my point sufficient enough, because I keep going back and forward, but never really reaching right to where it needs to be. And I'm trying to say this: every child that is born this way is the extension of the way they came. Even the good child has conflict, because he resents what he sees. He can't help but resent. The only way he can push it back is to resent it, and then stuff it down, and have conflict like everybody else. But this one wants to find out, why am I this way? The more I struggle with it, the worse I become. How is it so? I don't want to be like those other people. And he isn't like those other people, even though he carries that weight around with him all the same. He does his best, but it's not good enough. He has to find God. He has to unite with him, because what he's looking for is to bring him back to paradise lost. But this time he chose it. But the beauty of it is the longing of it. With the longing of it, he enters a world where people, seeing that he's more innocent, is annoyed, upset, because of the very fact that he's on that journey. Its goodness, it disturbs the bully. And the bully hates. The bully is illuminated by the presence of that person. And the person doesn't understand why the bully wants to hurt him, because his presence, his beautiful presence, and he doesn't know he has a beautiful presence. And it disturbs him. And so I have taught you that you have weakness. But and they will recognize that, they will see that glow that you don't think you have. They will see that you're the type of person who's looking for meaning. And that by itself is sufficient to disturb. You want to keep you from getting to your goal. That's the whole idea, isn't it? So I'm just missing a few points here. But every time you're on your journey, every time you will always meet bullies. Everywhere you go, they're all there. And they will tell you what a wonderful person you are, but just take money from you, sort of thing. They will argue it, they will look down at you and make you feel like you're dirty. If you could learn, if you could understand what God wants, He wants you to take no notice of what they say. Because if you get upset, you take on the nature of the bully. And it ruins your journey to Paradise Lost. So, in your journey, the most important thing you must hold is let that person go. Can you understand that you have the power? You have the power to just, I see. Listen, you little rat. No, I'm not a rat. You're a rat. It's not quite like that. Or get upset and turn into a rat because you resent him. And when you resent him, you become the extension of him. Bingo. All you need to do is whenever you are in a situation, whether it's money, whether it's somebody wants to beat you, if you can realize that you have a potential of redemption right round the corner, you're on your way, and the only thing you need to do is recognize this, what Jesus said, forgive them, Father, for they know not what they do. What does that cover? What does it cover? It covers the fact that you won't react. Just think of it. If you could just look at that person and realize that he came into the world, she came into the world, but has not seen what you have and is going the wrong way. And the fact that you are present disturbs him. And it disturbs him, and so he wants to overcome the disturbance and put it away. And that's how he could feel better, so he doesn't have to see himself in the light of that person, which is really going on without words. See? So, I want to make it simple to you. If you're on the journey, the purpose, you will never find the purpose, you'll never be able to get to that goal unless you can. Now here's the word, forgive. You cannot forgive. Only God forgives. You cannot judge. Only God can judge. Judgment is mine, saith the Lord. You can't forgive because you're not God. You can't forgive anybody. What you can do is even something more simple. Do nothing. Do nothing and hold your ground. Doing nothing and holding your ground calmly. I understand. He wants you to get upset. If you get upset, you become the extension of him. And you will turn around and you do two things. You're going to give in and embolden him. Or you turn around and do to others what was done to you. That's all you've got, nothing else. Now, we spoke about jealousy, but jealousy is hate. That's all it is. He's got more than me. See? But I hope I'm getting this point. I'm running around here a little bit. All you need is in that intuition. When you come into the world, you come into the world with intuition. Tuition from within. That intuition can be called upon within you. The other person is going the other way. He's doing the opposite. He wants to get rid of what is showing him up for what he is. You've got to avoid judgment. You've got to avoid forgiveness. That's not your purview. Just this. I'm talking to you a lot, aren't I?
You know, this is just a microphone. I'm loving it.
Close to your voice.
Okay. No, go ahead.
Yeah, no, you're talking.
Are you done with what you're saying?
Oh, you want me to finish?
Yes.
All right. Well, you see, you have the soulfulness of the individual enlightens him to realize what I'm just saying. And so, even though your suffering is the same as every bad person that ever lived, the suffering is in because you're the extension of it. But that you didn't choose it. It was pushed on you. That's different. The other
Bingo.
one chooses it
Yes.
and does it to you. You have to understand forgive him, for he knows not what to do. With the word forgiveness, I need to take it out because you can't forgive. You just, oh, I see it. Quietly. But quietly with a gift you've been given. The person that's rude can't do that. He can't sit still and appreciate the way you will. He holds on to not seeing by putting you down and take away your seeing him for what he is. That's how he feels it. Even though you're not aware of what the effect you're having on him, it's writing all over you. And the more you're able to do this, the more energy you have so that people won't come near you.
Yeah. I remember years ago, I've known you for many years, and
Loud. Speak more loud.
oh, thank you. I've known you for many years, and I remember one time you said to me
What?
that you said, people, I just look at them, they're like flies going by me, and
What?
they just don't land on me. People that, what's ugly in people.
Oh, yes.
They're just like flies going by, but they never land on you. And I just always remembered that. And so when you're speaking today about, there's two different ways you can be. If I'm saying it right.
Yeah,
but-
I'm just explaining what
Yeah,
you're experiencing.
Yeah, yes.
Yeah.
And forgive
So-
when that we cannot forgive of ourselves.
But
I
what I'm
appreciate
trying
that
to
so
say,
much.
Do you see that you have an intuitive, you came into the world when the world came into you. You can't help that. But you're not guilty. But there's something inside you that's guilty, in which you have a conflict with it. And you don't understand that you're dealing with somebody who hated you, and you react to hatred, and you became the extension for a little while. But it's always the struggle, the longing that, in other words, no matter how much suffering you have, you're looking, there's got to be an answer. There's got to be an answer. And sooner or later, God. In other words, I think there's a scripture I like to repeat again. everything bad happens for good, for those that love the Lord, especially. Everything bad happens to everybody who's bad, and then whatever they do, it gets worse. But with you, listening to me, everything bad is valuable. You just you don't let it bother you. Let God, let go and let God. Let Him judge you. Let Him judge that person. See? Let Him forgive that person. All you need to do is not let it bother you. And you have that skill. But the other little bugger doesn't. And he'll try harder. But that is what you need. You need cruelty to bring you to God. It's painful. The other people have pain, but they look for opioids. But you're not looking for opioids to get to feel better than you deserve. You're looking, you know there's something there, and the pain increases. At some point, I hope you listen to a person like myself, that you already have it because you were born innocent. You are always innocent. In other words, when they came into the world, they put it in a baby, and the baby started to grow up with it, and it finds itself in an inappropriate way like everybody else, but it doesn't want to be like everybody else. That is the person that Roy Masters said when I was playing with Arnold. I felt the lump. You know how I talk about that lump. Yeah. He was cruel. I never experienced somebody reacting to the person that caused me to have that lump. How does that stone in my chest get there? Because he said this, and he was cruel. What is the energy? There's energy. And then I said, I never forget this. I bring it up often. I wonder what that is. I'm not disturbed yet. I only got a lump. I wonder what that is. Oh, well, I'll let it go now, because maybe I'll understand it one day. I had that 8 years old. I've never changed. I just don't let people bother me. And that's a gift that God gives you when you were born. But the others have lost it. They love torturing you. They get their sense of worth by degrading you and getting what reflects them to see themselves.
The more we do nothing, it seems people try harder to get under your
don't you
skin.
see,
Right.
The world is divided into those who love good, who are searching on the way and reaching it. And that's what war is. War against the good, against the evil.
Which is going on right now in the country.
And the civil war is the same thing. Because in a country, sooner or later, the worse are going to get worse, and the better it'll get better. And there's a lot of killing the innocent, and then war, or you lose your country, and you can't speak. You see, you have to go find somewhere else to live, like Hitler, Germany. See that?
I'm drawing a blank right now. Oh, bullying.
You're no more blank than I am.
I was raised to give in to bullies. That's because
Gays to what? Give what? What did you say?
I was raised. It was so true what you said. There's bullies everywhere, and we need them. From my background, I was raised to give in to bullies. But, and you know, one big trauma that had happened to me, thank God that it's gone now, but in school, there's a lot of bullies. Even the teachers they're bullies without realizing it, and they would put me, you know, in front of the class to give an oral report, and that was a type of bullying because I couldn't deal with it, and I had a real fear of speaking in public in any way for many, many years. And that's one thing I really loved about this venue, that you don't just come and listen, you're able to share too. And I was able to overcome that, and it was a real
Well,
blessing.
you see, socialists and I can't remember, Marxists. They go for the universities
Oh yeah,
and they go for the schools
sure.
because if you get to the kids, you own them.
That's right. And I knew in my heart, even though I didn't have an upbringing that was that moral and no father in the home, when they interjected this teaching of evolution to me in junior high school, it created a real dilemma, because in my heart I knew there was a God, but it created a doubt, and I realized that's what it's engineered to do. That
But
is
now-
exactly what it's engineered to do. Because when you can create that doubt, you can alter their whole moral behavior of them being citizens.
I'll tell you a little story about my daughter Diane. She reminded me of it on the phone the other day. The teacher didn't like my daughter, and the teacher says, "I'm losing my
Patience. Yeah. I'm losing my patience with you.
help me again."
Patience.
Oh yes, losing my patience with you. I said, and he says, I forgot which one.
Well,
But I can remember I forgot that one. But she gave me another one, and I remember it. So the question is, you're on a ship, and the ship is sinking, and you've only got one or two boats, and there's not enough people for it. There's too many people for it. So what would you do? And you have to write it down. And it came to the fact that she wrote down nothing. And the teacher says, "Why haven't you fixed this paper?" So what would you do if this is the case? If the boat is sinking, the people are getting on the boats, there's too many people, what would you do? And she says, "I don't know until I'm there."
mm-hmm.
And the teacher blew up. He said, "Don't you understand? You got to understand something ahead of time." Basically, that's the whole point. And she kept on saying, "No, I don't know what I'm going to do until I see it."
Exactly.
And it went over and over again, and she turned blue in the face. And she wouldn't give in. Diane would not give in. It really ticked that person off. And it was just the right thing. And another thing. I've always encouraged that. So now she has to write I can't find the word.
Essay?
Just to speak a speech, and you have to write it, and then you win something, you get some, and so she didn't turn up. There was nothing on it, but the teacher doesn't know this, so she gets on the platform, and she gives a speech, and everybody laughed at it. When they found out she never wrote anything, she lost. But that loss was a gain.
Yeah.
That is what I taught my children.
And Roy, I had to do the same exact thing, and I wrote the whole speech, and I was under such stress. I mean, I could barely go to school because I knew that next day I was going to have to read.
Yeah, but my daughter just didn't do it.
That's right.
Well, that's
Right.
the difference.
Right.
No, you didn't have to write it.
No, I didn't.
Just throw it in the paper basket.
And now, like whenever I, share something or speak here,
No, you're missing it.
Hmm.
No, it's. I'm making a single point. Don't write it.
agreed. I understand
and,
that.
And go on there
Excuse me.
and make them put marmalade on their face. Where did marmalade come from?
It's I wanted to say one last thing. I understand that, and now I don't, if I have thoughts of what to say, I just let it pass. And it is, you're talking about magic. I see magic on YouTube and these people, and I was saying, well, that is fascinating, and it's a small piece. I realize why it's so fascinating, because it is like God, but God is a much more magnificent thing. But it's magic when I don't prepare what to say, or even I'm kind of dumb, but things come out. How is that? I mean,
I'm losing you.
well, when you don't know what you're going to say, yet you have things to say, and you don't know where it's coming from.
It's like me with this audience. I
Yes.
don't know what I'm going to say when I come in.
But how does that happen?
I don't care how it happens. It just happens.
Yes.
I come in here. I haven't decided what I want to talk to you about. And all of a sudden, bang, we've got something. Your whole life must be that way. Just drop people who are cruel. Just look at them as if they were so far away. You have to put that. You can't react. Reaction joins you to that person, but not reaction joins him to you, and he does not know how to deal with it. And often you bring that on person over to you and say, "How did you do this? I thank you very much." Be surprised. But nothing happens to you, and every nothing builds into less and less ability to get upset. And even if you put your finger in the fire and burn your finger, or hammer a nail and hit your nail with a hammer by mistake, you can see how stupid you are when you say, everybody says the same thing, including me. Oh, that damn hammer. You're projecting the problem on the hammer, which is insane. So whatever is done to you, please recognize that they got to you. And when they've got to you, realize you don't really have to react next time. Your intuition tells you to stay calm. You actually have a gift of that inside you, ready, once you grasp it, to understand, forgive them, Father, for they know not that they do. He's using those words because you can't forgive, but you can let it go. It's a matter of translation. I don't know how he cried out and what language he used, but it comes down to that. But you can't forgive. You cannot forgive. Forgiveness is God, God's purview. And judgment is mine, saith the Lord. Jesus was put to death, or the reason why he was put to death is because he was forgiving people. He could. He's the extension of God. He can express what God feels towards that person, and the person feels it, and is redeemed. There's something in the bully that is terrified. He doesn't know. Because a person who has noble has some kind of energy radiation towards that person. And it causes him to be very careful as to what you are. So he pushes you and talks to you in a rude way. And if you react, you're finished. But if you don't react, he tries again, and again, and then again. And he gets upset trying to upset you. But there's a certain skill in it that grows. So the ability for you not to get upset joins you to God, whereby it's the opposite in the other way. If you react to him, you can't react to God. You have to choose which one it is. So you wait for the moments, and they come when you least expect it. But you're always ready. And you always hold your ground. So if a bully starts to push you, he can feel the energy. And you can look at him in such a way that makes him tired. Leave him alone. Yeah.
I have a question about
I
forgiveness.
want to just say one more thing. I'm shooting guns with my sons. And it's up in the mountains in the snow. And three of them started to take the place we were shooting. And they stood in front and started doing it themselves. And I objected. And they came to me with anger. I moved back where the snow will hold me. And I moved back where the ice was. So, but you got to use a little common sense. And then you have a better, and they started to needle me. That's it. And after a while they got, I didn't have to hit them. I got knocked all three of them out. But I just waited. I said, "You finished now? Thank you." They went away. It's attitude. Attitude. And if you ever encounter a dangerous person, you will be surprised that before you know it, you're not a fighter. Before you know it, the person's on the ground and you don't know how you did it.
Yes.
I've experienced that. When it's necessary, God would put the energy into you just like that. It's like a shot bang. And when you look at the person on the ground, did I do that? That's how it feels. I've had it lots of times. I don't remember doing that.
And can I take this?
No. No, forgive me.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Goodness.
And I remember when you told this story about when you were living in Ventura and there was gangs around. There was some,
What?
I don't know if there was a gang, but there was some kids.
gang, yeah.
Yeah, a gang with the car that was making all that noise.
Oh yes, it's next door, basically.
Right.
With a lot between us.
And I just like that story because you just stood there and did nothing.
Well, it was really
He
funny.
did, I'm yelling at him.
Yeah, but the funny thing about it,
Boy ran out in the street.
I was ready to whack him one, but I didn't have to. This is how it was.
Well.
This is what I said. They're all walking around and making noises and everything. And I said, "Who's your leader?" And he came. Like high noon. Yeah, he comes towards me. And he stands in there, big guy. I said, you're going to stop this, and I'm going to make you do it. He says, oh yeah? I says, you're an angry person. How angry can you be? You have to be angry to beat me. He says, yeah, I'm going to be angry. I said, be more angry. I will show you that anger is not going to work for you. Words to that effect. And the more angry he is, I said, I'm going to make you do what I want to do. So get angry and see if you can fight me with the anger. And he got so angry, but ahead of time. I'm always ahead of time. He began to raise his fist. I said, that is what I'm going to make you do. It's crazy. But he's so upset. He had to accept what I said, and he couldn't put his hand down. He ran away with his hand in the air. It's a hypnotic state. When you get upset, another person. Now I have to bring this in. I'm the Institute of Hypnosis. The owner likes me, the son doesn't. And he's going to take his exam for something or other. And we're in the commissary having drinks, and there he comes in, and he says, you're a fake. I said, I beg your pardon. And he did this. He's a big, tall guy. He says, you just don't know how to do hypnosis.
Excuse me, Ray, was this the
Hypnosis,
son?
hypnosis, huh?
Excuse me, was this the son? You were
Huh?
speaking of the son didn't like you?
That's the son.
Son, okay,
Yes,
thanks.
the son. And again, I've done this on the radio. I'll come back to that in a minute. So I'm on the radio, and the subject is emotion. And so this expert comes all about emotion. It's normal. Everybody is. You have to be normal. Emotion is normal. I said, no, it isn't. I want to prove it to you. I said, you're just an idiot. That's what I'm saying. Right on the radio. I said, are you angry now? He says, yes. I said, how angry can you get? He said, I can get a little bit more angry. I said, you can't speak now. Shut up. Bang. He sat there a whole hour, and he couldn't speak.
Yeah, he's hypnotized.
But the point is, to shock a person is to influence them and hypnotize them. That is the correct name. And you can actually put yourself in them, which is usually goes without saying. So my wife, Anne, she has told me that my brother was jealous. I didn't care. And then again, jealous. And I didn't care. But what I missed is I should have cared. But she never came to me that much. But she was so angry because he was tried so hard when he lived with us. Yeah. Is that correct, Anne?
That's right. He worked on me morning, noon, and night.
But she never told me the degree of what it was. I would have smashed him. See?
I was afraid of that.
Yeah. But the point is, she took on his nature. I told you in the car when I first met her, she says, I have a headache. And I said, I can fix that. I touched her on the hair. She was hypnotized and didn't know it. And then I was able to tell her the names of her father and their mother and their brothers. And when I opened her eyes, she said, how did you know this? But I said it in her ears, and yet she didn't realize it was me. It didn't realize that I was actually listening to her, and she was giving it to me. And when she woke up, if you use the word woke up, she wasn't asleep anyway.
No.
I was in there, which I didn't like.
Yeah.
See, that's how people get into you. and you don't know they've got into you because what is in there, they think it's them. Meaning, she told me all these things about her family while she was in that trance. And then when she opened her eyes, she didn't realize I gave it to her. She gave it to me. She is still into that same way. I'm trying to get her to become a whole person. That's what she needs to become, a whole person. And becoming a whole person is not being upset. Realizing that the upset is exactly what it means.
Mr. Masters?
Yes.
This may sound kind of trite, but I'm curious, when you were in her, would she be thinking in her voice or
No.
your voice?
No, she would. I'm the voice.
You're the voice.
I'm the voice, and so all those people in the institutions have a voice,
Yes.
but they think it's their voice, and that thing will destroy them.
Right.
They will make you do things that you think is right and it's wrong, and they blame you. It blames you for doing it when it made you do it. This is psychiatry. Psychiatrist doesn't understand me. I could take a psychiatrist and make him stand on his head.
When I was, what do you call that, schizophrenic, and I heard voices in my mind, arguing and telling me. They weren't my voices, though. They were different.
No, they weren't. No, it won't be your voice. You are aware the voice I put in here would be my voice.
Okay, well, that's a good voice.
But the point is, you could be so somnambulistic that you think it is your voice no matter what anybody says.
But I was listening to different tone of voices. They weren't my voices. They were I don't know whose, but I mean it was
Well,
pretty weird.
Have you had an exorcism?
Yes.
That's it. Well,
Yes.
you're getting clean. That's
I
cleaning.
hope.
That's cleaning you.
My life and I tend to, conduct my life in a better way, more moral and sane and hopefully, but I always wonder about that too, Mr. Masters, to where is my reference point? Because back then I thought it was okay too.
What we're speaking about is very metaphysical. Very metaphysical. Everybody's got different voices, and the voices are usually the people who have degraded you all through the way of life.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to have lots of them in there.
So I thought I was okay way back when, all along, thinking I'm better and better and better and better. But then I look back in my past, at any point in time in those, I think I was really nuts.
What was
So
that?
am I really nuts now? Where's my reference?
Well, I'll put you in my cheesecake if you're not.
That would be nice.
Your reference is your consciousness in the moment. You can only have a reference in the moment, in the presence. So because the voice you think is you thinking, 90% of the time, it's your brain talking to you, and whatever's
Yeah, but
influenced your
my
brain.
wife never realized that I spoke. I spoke in her ear, got the information, and woke her up when she wasn't asleep. She wasn't asleep. She was in a state.
Right.
And so she has a bad childhood. And there's a lot of that in her that talks to her, but she can't see it as not her. It's her. Therefore, it must be good.
Yeah.
Must be right. See that?
Boy, are we gonna have that old talk again
Yeah.
that I've heard 50 times?
Yeah, but it's...
But it's everybody's story.
It's valuable to these other people.
Okay, thank you, Chuck.
It's everybody's story.
It's all right.
Because your traumas, everyone has traumas.
Yeah, they do, I know.
And every trauma locks into you the identity that was traumatizing you
Oh, yes.
if you react to it emotionally.
Say it again.
Every identity that traumatizes you gets locked into you
Of course.
if you react with emotion.
You'll become imprinted.
Imprinted with it.
Yeah.
And you will now think that's you,
Except
or you will be haunted by other voices.
That's
but
the nature of human nature. that you can actually put yourself into another person and make them slave,
And make him what?
making them a slave.
Oh,
A hypnotized person is a slave.
that's true.
And so, if you've ever reacted to someone, he's in you. And somebody else is in you. And then somebody else is in you. And you become so weak that you give in to avoid that. And you cannot. Because they get in you anyway. No resistance. First you have the resistance, which is anger. But then you find it doesn't work. So you give in and go along. But you've given in. You've emboldened what the person is and made them pleased.
So you asked me if I've ever had an exorcism. I have, but I don't know if it's pertaining to, if I have entities in me, would I know about them?
Say again.
I have had exorcisms.
Yes.
But if I still have entities in me and they're operating through me,
Yes.
they're very cunning. How would I know that? Do know this, Mr. Masters, when Chuck mentioned about the thoughts and such. I am getting, I can see the thoughts in my mind to, I'm just watching them go by and just not dismissing
What do you
them, but-
dwell on?
Pardon me?
Do you dwell on anything?
Not really. Not a lot. There's pondering, there's reviews.
Well, you must have had a bad life, a very bad life.
I have.
And there are several, but more than several, voices. And each has a different situation. So each situation, so you may not see until the situation comes up. And then it comes to you. But you won't be able to see it until if somebody threw you in a pond and you got resentful. You must have to wait to be being thrown in the pond to recognize it. When you're ready to, it will awaken it, see? I'm just making it a little joke.
I
with
understand.
it.
I get the analogy. That's
You
good.
you come into the situation, and there it is. So if she would talk to my brother, she'd get worse.
My father had a demon of jealousy in
It's the
him.
degree that she got angry, that transformed, and for many years was jealous. But jealousy is not her nature. It's not her nature. But it became her nature because I didn't react to it, and it disturbed her. That she sees that it's not working, and it upsets her. It upsets her because I don't react. And so, therefore, the innocence could cure it, but the amount of energy that my brother put into her was difficult. It was evil.
Wicked.
Am I right?
Yes, you're right.
But he died from resenting me because he spent most of his life babbling all about me every day.
I know he did. He's so jealous.
And they couldn't stop him. And then he became cancerous. And then the last thing he says, don't tell my brother
That's right.
the way I am.
That's right.
And bang, gone. I would say that you must work yourself to purity, in a manner of speaking, and to understand what Jesus said, forgive them. They don't know what they do. Now, I don't know what the words exactly is, but I don't think he would say forgive. He would say something equivalent in the language. Right?
I remember you used to say, and this stuck with me, forbear to judge.
Forbear to
close.
judge.
Yes.
That's
Don't judge. And don't forgive. See, if you judge, you have to forgive. Or if you judge, you have to keep your judge. You have to keep your judgment. A lot of people use judgment. This is really weird. But if a woman is being beaten and hating, she can enjoy judgment. She enjoy being beaten so she can enjoy being superior to him. And so judgment feels like, even though you're being beaten to death, it feels like power. But there's a certain pleasure to it. Weird.
excuse me, or verbal abuse.
Louder.
Verbal abuse as well as
Well, people allow
Physical.
themselves to be beaten because they've become cowards. But you see, you don't want to be brave because you can't make yourself brave, because bravery isn't what you think it is. Bravery is standing your ground with what you know in your heart, that you shouldn't be angry, that the person is trying to make you angry because that's the only way he can control you. And if you understand it the other way around, if they can't upset you, they can't function. You can take the biggest, strongest person, and he's a bully. And he's been bullied. So there's something not real there, even in him. But still he is rude and everybody's scared of him. But if he comes to you, and he will do this to you, talk to you first. Listen, you stupid idiot. That doesn't bother you. And then he pushes you a little bit. And you're just still the same. And he may have respect for that. The interesting thing, the bully can be saved because there's something in them that gives them a release of respect, because he's dealing with a respectable person, and to him, he's never seen this before. They've all given in to him and created pain and recognizing it, but he can't stop being a bully. But you will, if you are strong and weak, small, and not, but have no ability to overcome him physically, he will marvel. You're not reacting to this? Respect. Have you ever experienced this? How many people have experienced? But you can understand it. Yeah. But again, it all boils down to don't let it bother you. That's right. So if he punches you on the face, oh, have you finished yet? Attitude. I make up a story. And the story, I think it works. A lady's getting ready to go to bed and she's combing her hair and looking in the mirror. All of a sudden the window breaks and a guy comes in. And she turns to him and says, "Oh, hello, would you like a cup of tea?" I don't know if I could just make it as simple as that. Yeah. And then he doesn't know what to do. But typically it's...
There was a mini-series on not too long ago, and it was about this, I believe, elementary school teacher. Do you remember her name? Well, she was. We watched it. Anyhow, she was faced... You want to tell the story? No. You can't? No, okay, I'll tell it. She was faced with a very serious situation where a man came into the school disgruntled. I think he was a disgruntled employee, but he was ready to machine gun down all the kids.
Your
school.
speaking is not clear.
Oh, okay. Sorry. I'll say it again. There was a young man that came into this elementary school. And I'm not sure what state it's in, but this was a mini-series that took place on television that they wanted to depict this, basically, to depict this school teacher who remained calm while this young man came in. He came into her office, and she talked him out of shooting up the school. She was calm.
It's not good.
Does that make sense?
No.
What I'm saying? Okay.
It's not clear.
Okay, do you want to tell it?
You're babbling.
Oh,
you're
I'm
babbling
sorry.
a little bit.
Yeah.
It does. It doesn't. It's not bringing.
It's just when you were talking about, okay, I'll be a little bit more clear. When you were
No,
talking.
No, don't do it.
Okay, not now, okay. Sorry, but I just wanted to make the point about when you were talking about how you remain calm in the face of danger.
No,
And that's
but-
what I didn't say.
Everybody
So,
has
yes.
that ability.
Yes,
And understand that's safety. That does not mean to say you can whack a one.
right. Yes,
It doesn't mean to say you can't whack one.
right, I get it. Okay.
But it rarely needs that. If you become so skillful at it that energy radiates and it can't grasp why they can't move on you. Yes.
Well, I remember bullying my teachers in school. My fifth grade teacher would berate me constantly in front of the classroom. And then after I got out of fifth grade, I had a male teacher, a sixth grade teacher, and I was actually getting pretty good at reading, so he would praise me in class, and I would get praises from him in class, but he would haul me out on occasion, many occasions, and berate me in the hallway. And he did this with some of the other students. And I remember always trying to please him. And what I ended up doing is burning myself out.
Of course, that's the
I
worst thing
burned
you can
myself
do.
out in sixth grade trying to do all the work that he was piling on top.
Never
I-
appease.
I know.
Just never appease.
Yeah.
Even if they beat you up.
Yeah, I would
Now,
look up to
listen,
this guy. But it
even
was
if
like,
you're reading a person and they try to beat you up, assuming you are beaten up by a gang. You feel the pain, but you don't hate the hurter.
mm-hmm.
That's all.
Yeah.
That is magic. That is what everything bad happens for good.
Sure.
So you can turn that by not resenting them.
I don't.
What good does it do?
It was a lesson.
No, you're not missing. You're missing what mine. You're trying to
Okay.
talk over me and with me.
Okay.
And yours doesn't work, but mine does.
Okay.
You're not clear.
Okay.
I'm making points straight to the point. So if you got your face bashed in and your leg broken, don't hate the pain, don't hate the person who did it, and you win. What do you win? Spiritual relationship with God. He loves you for this. So when you walk away, God will take care of them. I mean that. In other words, they've taken the wrong turn. So as much as they smashed you, and the calmer you get, and you brush yourself off, and not resenting it, is very disturbing to them, and they don't know what to do.
I've seen that happen a couple times.
But you
in
don't
my
give
life.
them pleasure by
Yeah.
crying.
No. No.
Of course, I've never done that before. Thank goodness. It was always the other fellow.
Or we make excuses.
All right? Yes, sir.
Yes,
You are doing better,
I
aren't you?
froze. What's that?
You are doing better.
Yes, yes, indeed.
Yes. Can you tell me what better is? How
Better,
much better you are?
More detached, clearer,
Yes.
freer, and a touch of joy after a long time.
Isn't that sweet?
Yeah,
Isn't it nice?
I've been waiting for 25 years, and it's starting to unfold.
Isn't that beautiful? You can appreciate it, though.
Yes.
The appreciation.
You betcha.
It's like an old story. In the Bible, one earned $50,000. In other words, $50, otherwise they go to debtor's prison. And so the person who owes that money to, he forgives them both. And Jesus asks which one would appreciate it most, the one with $50,000 or one with 10. He said the $50,000 would be much more appreciated.
I like it.
Kind of nice.
Yes, I just was going to say, whenever you don't react to someone and you stay calm,
Yes.
you got to watch. Is it true that you've got to watch out that you don't feel like you've gained a victory?
Oh, yes. It simply must be, no, thank you. See?
Yeah, that right there, to feel like it's a victory, that's when God
No,
will hold
don't-
you
don't
responsible.
mustn't think of it as a victory.
Yes, indeed.
No, thank you. I don't know. I don't want any of that.
Yeah.
That's all. It has a magic. You try it. You see. All right. It's been nice having you. My nonsense began to say something, but what we're looking for is the way to loving God. And experience redemption. Because you're moving towards God where Adam moved away. And so you were born in moving towards him. And you were born in, we're innocent, but even though you may feel guilty, because the guilt has injured your innocence, but it's still there at some place. See? And those who cling to that will always find redemption. And the others go to hell. Simple. The more you suffer, if anybody suffered in the world, it's me. I had every sickness and suffering you could have. And every one of them, some of them are decent. The one I have now is 3 or 4 years. And it's not getting done properly. But still, and there's some dangerous things. With respect to that, I'm letting it go. I'm not letting it bother me. All right. I'm not going to judge. I'm not going to fight. Unless I need to. But then it's going to have to come through me to that person. To take any force. But there is force. But the force is multiplied by virtue. So when I say to my kids, clean your teeth. No, I'm not going to do it, Dad. Clean your teeth. That is a good anger. And then there's a bad anger. It's got a different sound to it. The good anger the good anger has authority. which a child needs, a real authority, not a bully authority. Big difference. And we come back to men and women again. Men have to stop loving women. Find God first. Don't ever get married. Now, marriage you can find yourself in marriage, I get, but the wise person, the young man that's listening to me on radio, seek first the kingdom of God, and all things will come to you. Correct? I think as close as it can be. Don't be in a hurry to have a woman, because she will have you, for sure. And all hell will break loose. And then you have to start all over again looking for the answers. Oh my God, I've got the same problem. Thank you for coming.